Welcome back, everybody, to our energy tips for week number 4, the 19th till the 25th of January 2020, called Going Quantum. Yes, I suppose you guys had a few moments here in this last week where you thought, oh my God, what is this all about? What is this sort of weirdo feeling of shift inside of me? How can I deal with this? What do I need to do? Total confusion or total anxiety, whatever it was that you were getting pulled into, guys, was the deepest layer of your own emotional and physical security. All right, so the shift that you all noticed, the energy shift here in the collective, has something to do with us needing to break through, besides some of the emotional stuff and some of the physical stuff, because the translation is very physical right now, is this part of not knowing what feels safe, not knowing what truly matters to us. All right, so let's look at this here, how this might play out in this next week. The overall energy that we are experiencing in the collective, in our relationships, everywhere we look, is that things are starting to change, and this can create all kinds of feelings in us, but for the most part it creates resistance in us. And this is also why this is so physical right now, because we're all asked to break through something, to break through these patterns and these programs, whether they're aware to us or not, whether they are blocked or whether there's trauma there, or whatever it is in the past that has led to us feeling attached to needing certain things or thinking that we have to be in a certain way. All right, those identifications, those are the ones that are now basically turning out to be our blocks. And this is why, this detachment is such a big deal right now, because in this process of restructuring everything from inside and outside, where everything kind of seems to sort of turn upside down, it's very important that we recognize this as a renovation, as a reinvention. Okay, so if you look at what is going on right now, or going quantum as a sort of a new paradigm of seeing the world and seeing yourself, if you can see this as an upgrade to your existing life, as a more detached and more actively participating in your life, then you recognize that this can actually be quite invigorating, innovating, and that it can lead you to wanting to initiate things. All right, so those are the big words here for this next week. These energies are already there, and the confusion or the resistance or any kind of stuckness that we feel is to break through these old patterns, these old programs, whether we are aware of them or not. So hand in hand with this comes our awakening that some of these things are there for a reason, that they're showing us where we've been too rigid, or where we've tried to control things too much, or where we've been too attached, or where we have too many dependencies. All right, so they are not there to throw curveballs at us or to make our life miserable and confirm to us that our life is a struggle. They're there to teach us something. Right? If we can shift our attitude along with all these things that are seemingly sort of coming at us as things that help us to improve, things that help us to grow, and to embrace the challenge of that, and recognizing that this is what creates resilience in me. This is how I learn how to deal with inner and outer changes. And therefore, I embrace this challenge because I want to grow. I want to see more truth. I want to have a life with more fulfillment. I want to feel more inner peace and inner balance. And obviously, the big lesson is, if we continue doing what we've been doing, we're going to get the same results. So right now is the time where most of you feel that you need to try something different. You need to start applying new strategies. So many of you have already explored what these new strategies could be, but only a few of you have actually gone, walked the walk. Okay, it's really now about this learning through doing and implementing into 3D. And the issues that we have there is that we have to find the right balance. Okay, we can't just focus on the 3D, can't use spiritual bypassing as means to, just meditate things away either. The big awakening, guys, that is happening here right now is that we are realizing that change is something that can happen through our shift of perspective, through our shift or change in vantage point, through a different way of contextualizing things. And that change does not need to come with suffering or struggle. So my big energy tip here for this next week is to catch yourself every time you go into the expression or attitude of struggle, of scarcity, of lack, of, oh my God, this is so hard. Oh my God, this doesn't work. Oh, huffing and puffing and whining and complaining. All right. If you can catch those moments and turn them into true hard warrior moments where you are willing to say, okay, I accept that this is there right now. Okay, I accept that this is something that I need to deal with right now. So what is my resistance? Where am I resisting this? And to allow yourself to, gently, and this is then the part here that comes in through tuning into our feminine energies a little more, to not just see everything as a fight, but to gently tune into this and say, okay, let me take a deep breather. Let me, just go within and feel into this a little bit and see the signals or the impulses or the messages that are in this and how I can grow from this. What can the message be? I wonder. I wonder what this means, is how you can basically coach yourself through this, but not in the sense of, what I've been doing wrong or where I'm not good enough, but in the sense of like, this is interesting. It's interesting what it does to me. It's fascinating how my body or my emotions or my thought processes respond to this. And how do they respond to this? Well, this next week, mostly with resistance. Okay. So collectively, all this renovation, all this, transition of power that I've been talking about all these years is now really coming to an, shaking, revolution, okay? And the earth will respond to these things. Remember how we are always in interchange energetically, also with the earth. The earth is responding with this to this, with earthquakes, with weird weather patterns, with things that are no longer the way they were. All right, and some of that in this next week doesn't really doesn't really feel that good. All right, so there might be some kind of supply chains that might be disrupted here somehow, be it our internet or our power or food supply. There'll be some things that feel like they change so much that it will come to an interruption. Okay, so this explosive interruption here is part of the energetic signature here of this next week. This doesn't have to scare us. We just got to recognize that when things change in that sort of leapfrogging way, all right, that our ego will always resist at first, because when things are no longer the same way, when they're no longer familiar, then our ego comes forward sort of as the first responder and says, oh, we got to make things the way they were, okay? And why aren't they the way they were? So, we try to fight against it. This is the sort of the more masculine part in us that, tries to reinstate familiarity, because this is the way the ego feels the most safe. But remember, the ego is not there to make you happy. The ego is not there to help you to reach your higher vibratory goals in life. The ego is there to make you survive physically, okay? And it's okay to listen to the ego in the sense of like, hey, don't engage in things that are no good for you. Don't, allow other people to take advantage of you or whatever. The only problem here is, and you guys know this, is that when we are used to certain things, or when we're programmed or conditioned to toxicity or abuse, or like people taking advantage of us, or us treating others in a certain way, then any type of change will be perceived as threatening. And this is where our discernment needs to come in. The main part that I've observed here that will probably influence the way we feel about ourselves next week is how we make decisions. So the other energy tip that I can give you for this next week, overall energy tip, is to really pay attention to how you make decisions. How is this decision making process going on inside of you? And are you truly going by the higher expression of things, the higher vibratory version of things? This is what I call heart warrior moment, where you have to consciously call yourself on wanting to take the higher route, on wanting to move towards the higher expression of things and not go into the same old, same old. The main challenges with this will be that, we have to withstand our own inner resistances, and this can come with a lot of physical stuff, guys. I talked about this last week. So chronicness, all our chronic stuff might come forward. You might be thinking you're getting old or whatever, but I really want to increase your awareness here in regards to your physical signals. And how they relate to inner resistance. So there's an article I wrote a while back, but I want you to tune into this right now. Where are you perceiving pain right now? Where in your physical does your resistance manifest? All right, do you feel this in your face? Do you feel this in your sinuses? So when people have a lot of issues with their sinuses over and over and over again, it means that they're not expressing their truth enough. Okay, it gets stuffed. All right, and to a point where it inflames and where it has to come out, in this sort of explosive way, first through the headaches, okay, because it pushes on our sixth chakra, because if we're not speaking our truth, it's very difficult for us to be in truth, right? And then, we get sick to let all this out, to release. A healthy expression of that is to, maybe begin to journal, maybe begin to develop the discipline to be more truthful, be it about things that have to do with how we express ourselves, how we talk about ourselves, that we refrain from exaggerations, but also how we talk about other people, that we refrain from gossip, that we refrain from, sort of embellishing things and so forth. This can actually help us to stand more in our truth and to feel more confident with being truthful. All right. Next thing is the jaw itself. All right, so typically we develop issues with our teeth, with our jaw bone, when there are fundamental first chakra issues, the right to be here, the ability to support myself, to pay my bills, and so forth. But it can also come from exerting too much control in our life. So if you feel this like really tense feeling here around your jaw, and also here in the back of your skull and your throat region, okay, then you might want to check on how much you're trying to control your environment. Be it that you have like these little OCD thingies in your life, or that you're trying to control others too much. And I recommend then to consciously do things differently, to just for the heck of it, to change certain routines, to change certain things. If you see something in the house that bothers you, to let it be there, and to use this as a training to not get your energy pulled into this and trying to control this too much. That's just a way you can practice this with yourself. Now, the neck pain that so many of us experience, the pain in the neck is often something, or almost always, something that is related to judgment, to this binary view of the world, good or bad, good, dark or light, right or wrong, failure or success. And it manifests when we have this inner conflict in us where it constantly goes back and forth, where our masculine and feminine energies are not in balance, where we cannot decide whether we need to go forward and control, and how much of that is too much and how little of that is too little, or if we need to just wait and be patient and maybe refrain from trying to interfere with things and allowing things to unfold, but how much of that then is sort of magical thinking and toxic passivity, right? So it's this conflict between what the right thing is for us, what is true for us. And if you are plagued by this pain in the neck, the best thing is for you to really stop trying to figure it out and go into feeling it out more. Embrace your energetic perceptivity, embrace your inner signaling, listen to your inner truth speaking to you, and allow all this to be in this sort of gentle and self-compassionate and forgiving way that you would want your true self to be with you. Somebody said something here in this workshop on Saturday about seeing yourself through the eyes of your own soul, really going into this compassionate place with yourself, all right? And let all this judgment, sort of flow from you. Shoulders, very often linked to responsibilities, to burdens that we carry. This could be related to things from the past, but it could actually also be related to actual responsibilities that we take on over commitment, things that we try to fix all the time, even with ourselves, but it can also come from too much control in our life. So, this tension in the shoulders and the pain in the shoulders is often sort of sublimates as guilt in us. So if we don't do this, then nobody's going to do this, or I have to do this, or else I would feel regrets or I'd feel guilty. So you need to find the right balance here. That's very important when you work with your own shoulders. Hands and wrists always have to do with the balance between giving and receiving. Also the arms, it's directly linked to your heart chakra. Always relates to our relationship with others and us in the world, how we interact with others, all right, in our attitude towards others. So if you have issues with your elbows, for instance, then there is something there maybe that you're not letting go of, or that you can't let go of. And it's important that you feel into the balance, the giving and receiving balance in your life, and maybe it can help you to identify when you need to take care of yourself more rather than expect things to come to you or feel entitled to things, because that's also related to giving and receiving. Now, people who have issues with ribcage, I'm one of those, has to do with not really feeling life supports them, can often lead to resisting our 3D-ness altogether. Okay, it's something that we perceive as a restriction, or can also be linked to self-imposed restrictions, where we think we can't do this because, or we don't deserve this, or I have to do this first before I can do that. So try to work with this signal when you have this in your life on a chronic or recurring basis, in the way that you look at, like, hey, wait a minute, I have the right to be here. Okay, so I don't need to do anything in order to deserve this right, and work with yourself. This leads to us, developing enough resilience and enough of a spine to actually make a stance here. And this is the next way how this can show, namely with issues with posture, with issues with our spine, with issues with our vertebrae, lower back issues, and so forth. They also have to do with support, but here more in regards to our independence and, in regards to us being willing to take responsibility and stepping up for ourselves and claiming that space and claiming that we have the right to be here. Okay, so if we can't do this, then it always indicates that there's an issue with self-esteem and self-worth. All right, and obviously any kind of imbalance with this can either lead to us being too assertive or too active or too controlling, or too passive, too sort of doormatty. So we need to learn how to balance this out. And the same with the hips. The hip problems always come from a fear of moving forward, or feeling pulled back by something in our past. So it's where most people develop attachments throughout their lives. It has to do with the pace and the flow of our life's journey, of our life force, all right, and can often also come through issues, obviously, with relationships, with sexual issues, and with intimacy issues that maybe that are based on abuse in the past. But it's like really the attachments here that we've accumulated over our lifetime that then begin to turn into actual physical issues. Knees, most will say that they're associated with the ego or the inner child. But in my experience, this is very similar to the sinus issue. It's really something that happens over time when we're not expressing our true feelings, and based on having sort of a distorted sense of self. So yes, it has to do with our identifications. It has to do with the truth that we speak and that we show up with, okay? And often this is linked to our inner child. Often this is linked to this confliction between our false and our true self within. So knee issues have to do with identifications, with your identity and your sense of self. So it's always important to ask yourself here, what is it? People like myself, I used to be a marathon runner. I used to literally try to run away from myself. And as a result of this, I have knee issues today. All right, but there's things, physical therapy and energy work and things that we can do to heal this, to ease this, all right? And through this higher understanding that I'm trying to give you here, you can also learn to minimize the resistance to sort of break through that and slowly sort of bring all this into more balance. So the opposite of resistance is harmony, okay? And harmony requires balance. That's why I've pointed out the true meaning and also the role of masculine and feminine energies within in regards to our life's manifestations, our happiness and fulfillment, because most of us, when we look at our lives, all right, and the imbalances in our lives, we're not aware of this, but most of it has to do with this imbalance between active and passive, between going forward and go and get it and wanting it, and maybe then trying to control it too much, trying to force our way through, or sitting back, allowing things to come to us, allowing things to unfold, being patient. But this can then also turn into waiting, making ourselves dependent on others. So it's always about this really fine balance, all right? And masculine and feminine energies, or the balance thereof, is what is responsible inside of you for that ability to move forward, to make decisions, to be true to yourself, to express your true feelings, and so forth. There's one more aspect here that can physically show you resistance in a certain area in your life, and that is if you have problems or recurring problems with your feet and with your ankles. It has to do with the direction that you need or want to take in life. And this is so strongly related to our willingness to take self-responsibility, and that again is linked to our ability to really see truth in our life, and to tune into our true needs and our true priorities in life, our true wants, what truly, truly matters to us. And this is very relevant here for this next week. So on a physical level, the most issues that I'm expecting next week will be issues with the spine, with the lower back, but also issues with your feet. And, issues that are chronic, that for you, that are, that have been there for, a long time. So how does this? How can we address this? How can we prevent this? Or how can we sort of ease this up a little bit? One big thing right now is stretching. Okay, so yes, I've been so sore the last couple of days because I started to stretch again. I started to do my martial art workout, and it really showed me my rigidities and my inner physical blocks. All right, so this is something that I strongly recommend to you, to go into more stretching, maybe yoga, but also baths and massages can really help with easing the resistance here, the physical resistance. All that for you to develop a stronger stance, to make you stronger, to be able to see your own priorities and to claim them into the world, and to not feel guilty anymore about the needs that you have, be it that you want to, just, that you want to take a rest or need a nap or want to do something for yourself. So self-care, self-love, you guys know this, can be done through anything that feels conducive for you, for anything that helps you to uplift your energy and that helps you to feel better about yourself from within. Another thing that can really help, because there's a strong masculine and feminine energy balance that is needed right now. Okay, they're very, very conflicting here in this next week, is something that has to do with dancing, for instance, because dancing is one of these wonderful physical exercises where, the masculine and the feminine really have to work together. They really have to support another. It is a wonderful way to tune into this. So if you have never tried this, in conjunction here with breaking through our resistances and trying new things, sign up for dance lessons, either individual or group lessons. This is a really, really cool thing. Remember, your comfort zone is your ego zone, and your ego zone is your sleepy zone. Okay, this is when all your unconscious stuff takes over and drives the bus. So focus on the things that are truly important to you. Also shed all the things that are not essential for you, and understand that there's a certain timing of things too, that you have to pace things out, that there's a step-by-step process to things, and that some things have to recover before other things can unfold. All right, and be okay with this. All right, do not resist this. Emotionally, all these things then play out full on here in this next week, because it scares us. Okay, so this is why the ego comes into play. The ego is there to make us feel safe, and unfortunately the way it does that is through, telling us how bad others are and how it's not your fault but their fault, and how life is scary and hostile, okay, and how they're all out there to get you. So I'm not making fun of this. I just want you to understand that this is a normal ego reaction to things, but it fragments you within, and it does not allow you to actually tune into what this truly means to you, or how this truly affects you, what is happening out there. The main thing here for this next week, in general for our journey, is to recognize that a lot of our fears are really based on lack, based on scarcity, and with these remarks that I made in the beginning, with exerting, this huffing and puffing and whining and complaining, we are energizing lack in our life, and that is a guarantee for disappointments, for betrayal, for all these negative experiences in your life. So if you don't want this to repeat, guys, then don't get stuck there. Don't get stuck in your ego or in your fear. Don't get stuck in your control or in your toxic passivity. Be active. Become a co-creator in your life. Emotionally, you'll see that the moment you step out and change just one thing, all right, how this can actually change your life and the way you feel within yourself. All right. Mentally, the biggest tripfall here next week is the seeking and the back and forth, the pro and con inside of our heads, and this can affect our decision making. All right, so decision making is at the top problem list here for this next week, because if we are in this comfort, ego, sleepiness zone, okay, we literally shouldn't make any decisions. So next week is not a week where I would recommend you guys to make big decisions, because you have to get used to the pacing of things and letting go of resistance and easing your way into this sort of resilience that comes through the step-by-step going through things and embracing new things. So take this week for learning and growing rather than deciding. All right, that be my tip for you here in regards to some of the mental combobulations of next week. Socially, this can create a lot of issues in your relationships. It already has. Okay, it's this finding the balance between short-term gratification and long-term fulfillment. All right. But I've also noticed something, and this is almost like an energetic remedy, that seeking the company of like-minded, finding your tribe, find the kind of people that understand you and that have the same goals as you and then have the same awareness level as you, can be like a super medicine here for all these shifts and changes. It's so healing to go out and share, or to just, listen to others and hear how they're going through things like, inner or outer changes. So this is really powerful right now, and I strongly recommend yourself to explore this a little more, especially if you've had more of an isolated life in the past. Okay, you can develop a stronger sense of self by communing and communicating with others. You just have to make sure that you stay in balance with your boundaries, you stay in balance with your control and power stuff, and you don't give up what's essential to you, okay, what defines you. All right, so you don't want what other people say or how they see the world or whatever to dominate yours. You want to listen to it, you want to open yourself up for it, you want more information, but then you have to really verify this for yourself, feel through this yourself. Now, spiritually, this is a really cool time, because there's so much coming in, but that's also why it's so scary for a lot of people, because they don't know yet how to name it, how to word it. They don't know their language of their soul yet. And so we're seeking, this is the mental seeking on for the perfect solution, right? In the spiritual, this manifests as seeking truth outside of ourselves, and seeking it through altered states maybe, or seeking it through plant medicines. Ayahuasca has become such a fad now that I have to say, guys, I mean, many of you know this. Jeff and I facilitated ayahuasca ceremonies 10 years ago, and we like, we understand the healing properties of plant medicines, but it's not something that you could do on a daily or regular basis. This is maybe something that you do like a vision quest, or like a fasting, or other techniques that help you to overcome some of your ego's resistance. All right, you do this to receive this spiritual freedom to explore what's out there. But this is not something that you should do on like a therapeutic measure. Okay, you do need to take all this that comes out of these altered states, or the connection with the plants, all right, and work with this. All right, this is only the beginning of your journey. It's not the means. All right, it's very important. There is no shortcut to your inner divinity. There is no shortcut, other than through, learning how to be with yourself, learning how to become a true self, and then tapping into your soul self through and within yourself. You don't need any substances for this. You guys know this. We teach you guys to go there without any kind of altered states. All right. Chakra wise, here, just real quick, the main influences on us here in this next week will be through our fifth and sixth chakra, both at the same time, all really heady, and our first and our second chakra. So it's all related to the way we see the world and ourselves, and the way we are able to bring this out into this world, and how we feel about ourselves, making our stance, and keeping things in balance. And last but not least, energetically, we talked about balance, masculine, feminine energies. Those things are familiar to you here, since you've been, a patron supporter for a long time, or a heart warrior. We practice this with you almost every day. What it really is to look at your overall state, and to look at your overall holistic, aspects of life. Okay, how your life is something that is either sort of pushing too hard, or being too passive. How you feel like, as the sort of the driver of your bus. Do you feel like you're driving your bus, or do you feel like your life is just happening to you? All right, and when we get overwhelmed by changes or conditions, inner or outer, then is always the call to go within, to ask for support, to go into maybe using nature as your clearing agent, as your divine training buddy. Use elements, fire, water, air, and earth. Get your hands into the dirt, or make a fire and meditate with the flames, or let the wind go through you and take out all the attachments, all the rigidities and the imbalances out of you, or work with water. That's something that feels very, very healing for next week. And be willing to change your priorities when the time is right. Okay, when you realize that you've been living a life based on other people's values, or whatever you thought was right or perfect or ideal, and you recognize that this is no longer true for you for whatever reason. It doesn't matter why. All that matters is how. How can I go with this now? How can I translate this into 3D? How can I change or shift my energy so that I can, live a life that feels more like it's expressing me and I'm part of it, rather than something that is just sort of running at me and over me. All right, so focus on how you can really touch base with your energy and navigate through all these outer things through knowing who you are from within. Okay, we don't need to foretell the future. We don't need to know every detail. All we need to know is what our intention is, what our priorities are, what we love doing, and then do what we love. This is it, guys, for week 4, 2020. Have a wonderful week, guys. Try to use this shift energy here as an invigorating, inspiring, innovating, new energy for your own life. All right, and catch your resistances. Love you guys. Thank you for your support. See you next week. Bye-bye.